Welcome to Game Club, the podcast that's like a book club but for video games. I'm Dan, the kid from Solandia.
I'm Catherine, nerd and screenwriter.
And I'm Charles, Apple tabletop gamer.
Welcome to episode 13. This week, we played Bastion. Bastion's a game from 2011, developed by Supergiant Studios, published by Warner Bros. Interactive, and it features sort of a dynamic voiceover narrator, and is sort of presented as this two-dimensional kind of isometric game where you run around beating things up and get upgrades for your weapons, and you put together the Bastion. And we're going to get all into that game this week, but first we're going to go into our Nerdwicks.
Let's talk about Bastion.
So, Bastion, as mentioned at the top of the show, as that kid,
the soundtrack to Bastion,
just rages for a while. Came out in 2011, thanks to Supergiant Games and Warner Bros. Huge, essentially a massive hit. It's on all sorts of platforms. You got PC, Xbox One, iOS, PS4. I think it's on the Vita now. Catherine, did you end up playing this on the iPad?
Yeah, so I played it when it originally came out. So I'd actually played it on Steam. But then for this playthrough, I did rebuy it on the iPad because it was very reasonably priced. So yeah, I kind of have both perspectives. I obviously played it using a controller first and then played it on the iPad. So yeah, very, very different game on, gameplay on both of those platforms.
And I know everyone who listens to this show obviously plays along with us, but for the 0% of you who didn't, it's isometric sort of third-person view, and it's got this sort of particular, almost like hand-drawn or hand-painted art style, where you're this kid and you're walking around, and as you're walking around, the ground itself comes up to meet you, as there's been some sort of calamity that has destroyed. It
kind of reforms.
Yeah, it sort of reforms as you get to it, and you can fall off the edges. The other super notable thing about this game, which you realize sort of straight away, is there's a narrator who's actually telling the story and is describing the actions your character takes. So if you fall off the edge of the world, the character might say, the narrator might say, "Oh, the kid has to watch their step," or "This is not where the story ends." Or that if you just sit around and beat things up and without progressing forward, the narrator might say, "The kid rages for a while," and it's really interesting seeing that sort of dynamic play out throughout the game.
Yeah, that narrator's voice is just smooth whiskey. And I could listen
melted
to that.
Cheese, delicious.
all day long. It's so nice. That's my favorite part of the game, is the narrator's voice. Hands down.
See, I like the narrator's voice is right up there for me, but like to put it in context, when I played this game, I literally wrote a fan letter to the person that did the art style to say how much I loved it. Like I think this game is beautiful. I mean, we're so spoiled for choice now with indie games that it's kind of easy to remember that when this came out, it wasn't it wasn't a wasteland, but there weren't as many as there are now.
Yeah, this was a real pioneer with indie gaming for the quality.
And it was a game that you could point to it, and when people have those debates about are video games art and are they culture and all of that stuff, Bastion would be one of the ones I could point to, because there were so many distinctive things there where I'm like, tell me that that's not cultural output. Like, how can you look at that and go that this doesn't contribute something to kind of the cultural world, and the music. So I love the music to Bastion.
Yeah, it's a little bit Middle Eastern, isn't it? With a bit of a Middle
Western
theme
tint on some of it as well.
I mean,
it's really unique.
Yeah, it's really hard to pin down, and also, like, I think there's a sitar in there, which is that little Middle Eastern vibe, and I mean, I love writing to video game music because someone was explaining it once, and they said, like, it's because it's music that is made to listen to while you do something, versus music that's made to relax you, or where you focus on listening to the music. It's meant to be kind of dynamic, but in the background. And the Bastion music is beautiful, but also very, just active.
Yeah, I think I'd read something similar where sort of background, especially game music, is quite rhythmic and it can be on repeat without it annoying you. It's kind of designed to be able to fill long stretches of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I could listen to the Bastion soundtrack for hours and hours, and we'll have cut obviously some bits of it into the podcast, so you can get a feel for that energy.
So what did you guys play it on in the end? Which platform?
Charles,
I of course played it on PC.
with a keyboard.
Yeah, with
Through
a
Steam?
keyboard. Always with a
Okay.
keyboard. Yeah, so I don't enjoy playing these kind of games on the iPad. I don't like playing fighting games
that's fair.
on the iPad.
Yeah.
The controls aren't kind of dynamic. Sounds wanky. They're not reflexive. What's the word?
Yep. Yeah.
Not
Twitch
quick
reflexy enough.
Yeah. So I
Responsive,
don't
yeah.
enjoy that. So PC every time.
But I'm surprised you didn't use a controller. Is it because you don't know how to put a controller on your PC?
I don't own a controller to put on my PC. I have never played with a controller. I don't
have a console, but well, it's like Steam's big picture gamepad stuff is excellent. Like I don't feel the lack of not having a console when I do play a game on a computer because the controller stuff is so well done through Steam. So
Yeah, I played with a Xbox controller plugged in, as I usually do for these games, and I had played it previously, as you mentioned, Catherine, sort of back in 2011, 2012. I played it when it first came out, and I'm ashamed to say I didn't actually finish it. And then when I replayed it this time, just smashed through it, and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to get to the end of this, and enjoyed it every step of the way, even on the second playthrough. So
yeah, lovely. I mean, one of the things I love about this game, so obviously you've got all your different weapon choices, and this holds true for their follow-up game to this, Transistor, which I also played and really loved, and a lot of the same kind of feedback in terms of beautiful art style, really different, beautiful music and great story as well. But there's legitimately no best way to play Bastion in terms of the choices of what weapon you use and which section and all of that stuff. There's no one right answer, and I think that's such a hard thing to do from a game design perspective, and just speaks to the quality of the game that I don't think you could, like, you know, I was going online and looking up hints and things when I originally played it, and there would be people arguing so strongly for one combo being the best, and then other people saying they, you know, did New Game Plus using an entirely separate one, and it's like, yeah, like that's a really well balanced game.
yeah, because the game has you at the start you don't really have much, but you get a hammer and I believe you get a bow or a pistol and a shield. I've forgotten now which one you get first, but you essentially have
bow first.
Yeah,
no,
so you
you
essentially
get
have a melee.
the rapid fire.
The pistols
it doesn't
first?
matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Anyway.
So you get a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, and a shield, and then you've got sort of a super attack you can get, and you can get some health potions. Effectively, these liquors, and then that's kind of it. Like you go around, you beat up the bad guys, and you collect the little shards or whatever. And then, yeah, pretty much every level you go to, you unlock at least one, if not two, new weapons. And then I think it really comes into it that, you know, so you end up playing New Game Plus and going like, oh, okay, what combo should I try now? And you can unlock upgrades for those weapons or purchase upgrades for those weapons as well. And I never found that there was one that I felt was overpowered or was the one I had to stick with. It was very much I enjoy the feel of this better. Like I really enjoyed the speed.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing. Like there is no right or wrong answer. It's what suits your gameplay style best, which is great.
Just to put the game into perspective for people who haven't played it. So essentially, the idea is the Bastion itself is this kind of, well, it's a bastion. People, the idea was that people were meant to come here to survive a disaster, but it was unsuccessful. That didn't happen, and the Calamity has happened, and everyone's perished, I guess, except for this kid and the stranger who's narrating that made it to the Bastion. And the idea is you explore out from this Bastion along the Skyway to different locations from the previous world, and you rebuild them as you go and discover them and fight monsters in them and fight bosses and get cores that you bring back to the Bastion to build, to expand it and to repair it. to then be able to eventually save and restore the world.
Or make a choice about what you want to do to restore or save the world.
I want to get to that choice in a minute, but Charles makes a really good point that you go out and you explore these areas and take a core or a shard. And what an interesting thing narratively is once you take it, often those areas start falling apart because it was the core or the shard that was holding them up in the air. And you're like, no, I need this power to rebuild the Bastion and unlock new. Yeah, exactly.
It is really nice to play a game that's about creating as well. Like, it's you're restoring something versus destroying. So, obviously a lot of video games are about shooting stuff and kicking doors down.
I 100% agree, but I think there is also a darker undercurrent of, you're taking away stability from other areas. You're dooming anything that was there to sort of create your own safety, and you kind of have to do it because that's how you're going to survive. But the themes are there that maybe that's what led to the Calamity in the first place, kind of that kind of attitude. Should we talk about the story some more? I mean, did you guys end up finishing this game or?
So I did both times when I originally played through. I didn't New Game Plus it because I'm not a crazy person. But yeah, I did finish it.
I finished it the first time I played it years and years ago. This time I couldn't quite get there, and I'll discuss why a little later. That we'll get there. But the choice at the end is what you want to discuss, Dan?
Yeah, so the game doesn't present many. I mean, it gives you choices in what weapons should you use and things like that. But the narrative just kind of pushes forward until you get to a point where there's two very specific choices you have to make, and the first one being you've just been doing all this sort of damage with this big weapon, and the enemy this is, I guess, spoiler territory. If you haven't played it, you should go and play it. The Zulf, one of the ambassadors from Ura who you found and rescued and kind of who betrayed you, and it turns out they triggered the Calamity. They're injured, and you can decide to put down your weapon and carry him, or leave him and just continue on. Which choice did you guys make?
I carried him.
No, I left him.
Says a lot personality-wise, Charles.
Does say a lot, doesn't it?
So what happened? Because I carried him as well. So I want to know, Charles, what went through your mind to sort of leave him behind, and what ended up happening.
Well, that's always the kind of choice that I would make in that kind of game. I honestly can't remember what happened. This was years ago that I reached up to this point. But when I make a choice in a game, I kind of put my own ethics to it. And I'm like, does this person deserve to be punished? And if the answer is yes, then they get punished.
And by punished, you mean die? Like you were leaving him to bleed out and die?
Yep. Punished.
Cool. Catherine, why'd you save him? Because you're not a horrible monster person, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, clearly. But yeah, I mean, it's the classic thing about, no villain or no other side of the war thinks that they're doing the wrong thing. Like, that's the mark of really poor writing. If you have a villain that's like, I'm a villain and I'm doing bad, almost everyone genuinely thinks they're doing the right thing. And I think the game actually leans on the side of you picking him up, in that there's this lovely tiny little moment when you pick up his body and you're walking through, and one kind of minion tries to take a shot at you, and his general kind of slaps him and stops him. Basically saying no, we respect, you might be our enemy, but we respect you. And we respect you for doing this, for carrying him. So I think the game secretly wants you to pick him up.
But also mercy is weakness.
Sure. Well, because I ended up carrying him as well, and mostly it was because that point in the game where his own people turn against him, and that's why he's wounded. And because it turns out his people are upset that his actions led you to turn up to their house and wreck face. So they decide to sort of injure him. And then I was like, no, I'm going to forgive him and carry him. And yeah, they do take shots at you for a little while. And then they sort of, once you get injured enough, they sort of stop, and it's like a sign of respect. And they do that thing where, one shoots at you and he gets beat up. by the others. And then you sort of, well, in our case, you take him back to the Bastion, and in Charles's case, you just feel empty inside. And you get to the second major choice of the game right at the end, the last choice. You get the choice between
restoration and evacuation.
That's right. So the restoration is you're going to restore the timeline, go back in time to before the Calamity, and you may or may not remember what happened. So there may not be a chance you can change events, change fate, but there is that chance, and you'll be able to go back to the way things were. Or do you evacuate and take the people who are still alive and just venture out into the unknown on this piece of floating citadel? Catherine, I want to start with your choice this time.
Yeah, so I chose evacuation, and I think it's because...
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, restoration is a false choice. So I would argue, if you look at the logic of that, you're actually trapping yourself to repeat that sequence of events over and over again with no change,
if you will.
Yeah, basically. And I think, at a fundamental level, those two choices represent trying to keep things static versus painful change. Because, evacuation is painful because you're basically saying all those people that are dead cannot be saved. But even with that in mind, we're going to move on and try and rebuild something new. Whereas restoration is maybe I can save them, but in reality, you're getting stuck in that loop over and over again.
Maybe. I mean, so I picked restoration, and when you pick it, the stranger has a...
Now who's hopeful?
That's it, right? He has a bit of a chat, and he's like, it's said that we won't remember, but with all the things we've been through, I don't think that could happen, in his sexy voice. And that's kind of, it gives you a little bit of a glimmer of hope, I guess, that maybe the restoration will end well.
But I think it's also like, even if you do remember, even if you stop it, nothing's changed in the system. Like, everything that caused the Calamity is still there and still in place. So, I mean, I think it's definitely, it reminds me a little bit of Braid, actually, in terms of it's definitely a game that has deeper things to say about the environment and choice and kind of society and the nature of fate. I personally think there's one right ending, but maybe that's just reflective of it's the ending that I always choose.
Yeah, it reminded me of, funnily enough, a Netflix movie I'd watched recently, I think called Arc or something, ARQ possibly, that is about that sort of time. There's this time machine, and it keeps putting them in a loop. And every time they die, they wake up at the start of the loop. They're trying to break the loop, but in breaking the loop, they've just fallen into a bigger loop that puts them into a smaller loop later. Like,
right.
And so I was like, oh, that's obviously nightmare scenario. Like, I would hate to go like, I would never want to, and this is me putting myself in it again, sort of like what Charles did, going like, I would not want to take the chance of not remembering and then falling into this loop forever. I would rather accept what has happened and carry on and do a new thing than be damned for all eternity.
So that's 2 evacuations to 1 restoration. There we go.
Yeah.
Quitters.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what our listeners ended up choosing as well. So the ones that did play the game. It almost feels like if you do restoration, that should be what triggers New Game Plus, because New Game Plus is just playing through
again, yeah.
Yeah, playing through again, but I guess having some knowledge of it. Yeah,
I think that would probably make me lean slightly towards restoration being the more positive option, though, because New Game Plus is like a reward. So
sure,
if that was the case, it would definitely be kind of implying like the restoration was the right choice. Whereas I think it is pretty ambiguous.
That's a good point.
As much as So yeah, I played it on the iPad. It was a beautiful port. I thought they did a really, really good job, but I definitely think it's better using a controller or on the PC. It was a lot easier on the iPad is my main complaint, and I don't think they could have done anything to change that. Yeah, well, it's because like you can play it with traditional controllers, like you can switch to what they call classic mode and have buttons on the screen. It's a lot clunkier. The way that they've made it really seamless and work really well on the iPad is that basically you auto shoot. So a lot of the weapon stuff is actually you dodging or tapping and getting out of the way. But like, so with shooting, for example, you shoot automatically. So I just, would sit on ships and just aim myself at people. And yeah, I guess it's basically like, it's a great iPad game. Like the fact that a game like that can be played on the iPad is amazing. It's just not the best version of Bastion out there. Because I played it and was like, this is a great iPad game. This is amazing quality, but I love Bastion and this doesn't make me love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I want to touch on as well one thing we've talked about every single character pretty much except one. So we've got the stranger whose voice is just mwah, could listen to him all day. We got Zulf, the traitorous Zulf who Charles leaves to die because he's a heartless monster, and Zaya as well. And Zaya's sort of an Ura girl. I wasn't really sure of like where her sort of story fit in this game because they do talk about a girl that was slighted by a boy. And I thought like, oh, was that us? Were we that kid? Do we have amnesia? What's going on? But she doesn't really seem to do much in this game.
Yeah, I mean, how old did you see the kid being?
Oh, I thought he was in his 20s at least. Like,
really? I thought like 12.
I thought like 10 or 12. That was kind of the list I got, which is strange for someone that kills a lot of people.
One of the extra missions that you can do by puffing on the pipe or getting into the cook pot or eating from the cook pot and sort of lying down is this sort of the narrator talks about what I thought was the kid's life, about how he went off to join the military because he wanted to send money back to his mother because she was very sick. And then when he came back... I
thought it was the narrator's life.
Oh, maybe it was the narrator's life, but
or maybe they have child soldiers. I don't know. There's options.
There's that option, and he was saying that no one ever goes back for a second term. But when the kid came back and realized his mum was dead, and like the money was gone, like he'd just been sending money back to her and it just disappeared. He decided to go back out there and do a second term, and no one ever does that, and he just hardened up or whatever. I thought he was like talking about the main character. I thought he was talking about you, because even though he calls him a kid, I mean, the narrator seems like an old dude.
Super so he would old,
call,
so he
would call anyone a
call
kid,
everyone
right?
a kid. Yeah, I think it's ambiguous. I definitely don't think it's like, no, he's definitely this age, but I kind of assumed he was younger.
Sure.
Me too.
The art style plays into that a little bit as well, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of the not the cutscenes, but I guess like the static images that you got, I felt like he looked slightly younger.
Yeah, he does look super young. Yep. I think you're crazy, Dan.
Okay.
Yeah.
That could be
cool.
it. I do want to know as well, like what weapons you ended up sort of using, because I felt that they introduced them fairly quickly, so I never really spent too much time with one. But by the end, I was like, no, my go-to is the musket and the spear.
Fair enough. I'm a big machete man. I liked the speed of the war machete because you could get in and get out really fast, whereas the bigger weapons I found really cumbersome and irritating. But the spear obviously has its advantages. Catherine?
Yeah, I liked the spear for certain enemies, I think. I mean, it's hard to say because obviously the iPad, it was super different. And I didn't mind the hammer. I like a nice hammer,
Yeah.
It's kind of the classic.
Did you do many of the sort of challenges for those weapons where you can only use one weapon, there's no shields?
I did most of them. The bow one, I think I didn't quite get it. And I did it for a while. Like not this playthrough, this was the original one, but it took me too long.
Where you got to pop the balloon things.
Yeah, it's either the bow or the pistol one. There was one that I literally got trapped on for 4 hours, and let's just say I did not do it this playthrough. So
yeah, I got a fair few of them. I got the second prize, but I think the only one I got first prize with was I think the shield and the spear or something. I didn't really bother too much with the others.
I got first prize on most, I think, but I got a bit OCD the first playthrough.
What a hero! Well done, Kevin.
Just the hero of Ceylondia. Just good on you.
Sorry, didn't know that I wasn't allowed to be honest about how well I did in the game.
Just tone it down. All right, just chill out.
Yep.
Chill out. All right.
Another thing I wanted to. Sorry, I wanted to also touch on the sort of we mentioned there's the upgrade mechanics, things like that. But as you build up the Bastion again, you get all these other unlocks like different special attacks, different stuff you can add to the difficulty. Did you guys venture into that at all, or?
Yeah, definitely. You got to build that stuff up, access it up. Yeah, it's the goodies. That's the good stuff.
I liked the building aspect. I kind of, it gave me a deep internal sense of satisfaction to restore things to their rightful glory.
Yep.
Yeah.
They nailed it. I don't know if maybe this is one of the first games to do it, but that whole idea of having your base that you're building up while doing other things has become almost a staple in games that we see these days. That you have your own location that's personal to you, and that gives you motivation. And this does it very well. Just because I guess the artwork's so nice, you really want to see that within your Bastion, if for no other reason. And the
backstory.
Yeah,
it's not just some random base.
Yeah, the opportunities it unlocks.
And you also feel personally attacked when you come back. You've been working so hard, and you come back to the Bastion and it's in ruin because it's been attacked while you were away, and you're just like, God damn it, I was so close to getting it finished, like someone's come in and ruined it, and you're just all the more motivated to get out there and hunt them down.
Yeah. Now I want to talk about why it didn't quite capture me this time. So the narration is stunning. The music is amazing. The artwork is fantastic. But the gameplay for me felt a bit stale. And I don't know if that's because we are
Games
where we are.
Moved on.
Like 5 years, 6 years later. But I guess that good old mechanic of mowing your way through a whole bunch of monsters with different weapons just doesn't hold me anymore. And I don't know if that's a weakness of the game or just where I am as a player. But I found it really hard to get super into Bastion for the second time because of the gameplay.
I think it may have something to do with the fact that, as Catherine mentioned, it's one of the early indie games that you could point to and go like, this is a great indie, or semi-indie. I mean, it's published by Warner Brothers, but
I think that was later though. It didn't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I would have to check the history of it, but it was like it won all the indie awards. Like it was not. I think it was picked up by them later.
Yeah, it could very well be right. I mean, the developer itself is an independent, whether they just published through Warner Brothers before you could sort of publish independently. But ever since then, I think a lot of games have maybe taken on that formula and built upon it. And the mechanics were very core, like very fine and crisp, and they kind of do what you want to deliver that narrative. But I think in the last 6 years, we have grown and kind of expect a little bit more out of our indie games, and maybe a little bit more intricacy in the mechanics.
I don't think that's a flaw of the game. I think I absolutely agree with you, Charles, that it's like it doesn't feel revolutionary now. I just think it's like, you watch certain TV shows that were amazing, you're like, wow, this plotline's so predictable. And of course it is. It was 10 years ago. So I think things move on, and that's not a fault of the game or the show or whatever. It's just that, I'd hope that games have continued to get better. And I mean, it's interesting. It's actually really sad. I was looking forward to their new game quite a lot. Pyre, I think. Pyre.
Yeah, it's like basketball, but also weird fantasy.
Yeah, so that was the thing. I read the description and saw some gameplay and was like, I just am so not into that style of game. Even though I love Supergiant, I know I'm not going to play it and enjoy it. So, it looks innovative, but it doesn't look like it's for me. So that made me a bit sad because I enjoyed Transistor, not as much as Bastion, but I did really enjoy it.
Cool. All right. So, Charles, I know we like to touch on this bit in every game club. Are there a couple of things you would like to tweak in this game, or?
Look, I guess for me, it's just the gameplay mechanics. And I think that's just my personal preference of a game. I'm not a big hack and slash kind of guy. I never have been. But
do you like cleverer games than that? Is that?
Yeah. I'm looking these days. I'm looking for puzzles. I'm looking for more complex mechanics, more interactions that are, I don't know, ethical. So Yeah. For me, like
so you can choose the awful.
Correct. So I can unleash my angst and anger upon the world. So for me, I wouldn't change the game because it is what it is, and it's an amazing piece of art. But it's not something that I would leap to play again, in that sense.
Yeah, Catherine.
Yeah, I think for me it was really fun to go back and play it on the iPad. I definitely don't think it's the superior platform. Like, I know a lot of the games I've played, I've kind of, for this podcast, I've kind of come away going like, I would never play it on anything other than an iPad now. That's definitely not Bastion iOS version for me. It's still one of my favorite all-time games. Like, the narrative, the music, and the story, and I agree with Charles. The gameplay hasn't aged particularly well, but it's still right up there with one of the classics.
Now, usually at this point in the podcast, I complain that the game was too hard and that they need to make it easier. However, this game was actually fine, and one of the buildings you can get, you can actually add levels of difficulty, and that increases the amount of XP you got. So we're square on that front. Thank you, Supergiant Games, for being up for letting me custom tailor my difficulty.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
However, what I would tweak is, and this probably isn't a criticism so much as just how much I enjoyed it. I would want more. I want maybe more story in the new game.
It's
plus
a neat package.
I want more narrative. I want to find out maybe some extra stuff about that world, because that world started to really interest me when as the narrator's telling it to you, I couldn't help but get invested. Also, I'd like maybe some more unlocks for the weapons instead of just, you do 5% more damage or reload is faster. Maybe some kind of super attack on the weapon that doesn't, that can go in conjunction with the other super attacks you had from the black tonics. Maybe just like more fiddly things to sort of play around with as I explore more story is kind of what I'd want out of this game, or some sort of DLC maybe.
I'd like to see the weapons change in a way that makes you play tactically different, I guess. More so than just the ranges you're hitting your enemies. That would be interesting, I think. And
so I guess
that's what we see these days. And this was,
and that's what they did in Transistor. Like, you played a completely different game. It was kind of weapons, but they were like runes. You equipped different runes.
Okay.
And there was maybe 500 different combinations once and each of them, a lot like Bastion, each of them was a completely legitimate play style.
Yep.
And the game forced you to basically try them all. It wasn't really, it didn't annoy you, but it was like you ended up never being able to stick with just one style of play. So I think you can see the sequel to Bastion and the evolution in it in their later games.
Right.
I think there's definitely a clear progression there if you play one and then the other.
Yeah, nice. Alrighty, we're gonna have to keep moving on. We're getting close
we'll
to
skip
time.
I think we're. Yep.
We'll go straight into game recommendations. I think we all recommend this game. I think is sort of where we land on it.
Yeah. So for me, it's definitely, look, if you've never played it, you need to play it as a fan of indie games, and just to experience the artwork, the narration, and the soundtrack, if nothing else. If you've played it before, you probably don't need to revisit it. I think it'll be almost, for me, it put a bit of a sour taste on what was an amazing memory.
All right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my recommendation.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah, good recommend.
Awesome. Do you guys have any games you want to recommend that are, if you liked this, you might like this, or if you're interested in this, here's another taste of a similar kind of game?
Catherine?
Yeah, I think mine would be very clearly Transistor. And then also Braid, really similar feel in terms of just narrative and surprise and story. Obviously different gameplay, but also gorgeous art style and music. So that would be my recommend for that one.
That's another one of those games that really encourages you to play again and uncover the sort of full story. Yeah.
Yep.
I would recommend Portal and or Portal 2. Obviously play the first one first. mostly because that entire game is narrated by GLaDOS as she's talking to you about the things you're doing, and she's talking to the character and the player instead of the narrator talking to sort of an audience. But it has a lot of similarities where the narrator will describe things you've just done and mention how silly it was or how smart it was. So it's a similar kind of thing.
I'm going to recommend the Banner Saga.
I haven't played that, but I want to.
Yeah, it just in a way that the artwork is really nice and unique, and the world also has its own little differences to it, which makes the whole thing really enjoyable and really engrossing. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Yeah, that's been on my want to playlist for ages, so that's a good excuse.
It's pretty great. There we go. It's out there.
Cool. All right. Now we're going to skip on through to the most important part of the Game Club show. It's the quiz!
The one we all look forward to. Bum.
Listen, all this takes a lot of getting used to. And you do get used to it after a while. There's 3 things I'll always miss, though. 1, not having to watch my step all the time. 2, forget about 2. And 3, I miss the songs. Folks from Ceylondia knew how to carry a tune.
Now this one's going to be a bit of a different format. What I have done is I've taken a couple of 10 to 15 second clips of famous game soundtracks. Now you're going to get, when I ask for it, so we'll give time for both of you to listen. When I ask for the answer, if you tell it to me what game it's from, you get 3 points. If you can't tell me, if neither of you can tell me what game it's from, I will give you 3 choices. And if you get it right, you get 2 points. And we got a couple there. So.
Oh man, this is going to be really
hard. Okay, I'm
done.
Okay, so can either of you tell me what game that's from?
Nope.
I'm going to guess Assassin's Creed. If I guess, do I get the quiz?
If you guess it correctly, you get 3 points.
But I mean, does that mean I don't do the second bit?
Correct, because so the other person doesn't even get a chance.
If you get it correct. No. If you get it wrong, we still get to do the second bit.
If I get it wrong, do I still get to do the second bit?
Yeah, correct. So okay, cool. Because you both got it wrong, the 3 options are Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, or Nier Automata.
I'm going to go Witcher 3.
I'm also going to go Witcher 3.
You are both correct.
Hey, well done us.
Nice.
I'm just proud of us, really.
All right, next one.
Cool.
Next one. I've got it. Which one is it? Is it?
Hang on. Lord of the Rings games?
No, shut up. It's Oblivion or Skyrim, but I can't think. It's Skyrim. It's definitely Skyrim. Or is it Oblivion?
Which one's your final answer, Charles?
I'm gonna say Skyrim.
Okay, you are incorrect. Your 3 choices are
Piece of shit.
Morrowind, Oblivion, or Skyrim.
It's Oblivion.
Oblivion.
You're both incorrect. It's Morrowind.
Oh, damn it!
Didn't Catherine say that to start with?
She said a Lord of the Rings game.
No, I said it at the start. That's
I think she said Morrowind, but let's say she didn't.
I said Morrowind in the 3 answer
too late.
section.
Moving on.
No.
To the judges on that one. Should we give her that one?
Yep. I think we should give her that one.
Point. I'll accept 1 point.
We'll get
I'm
2
fine
points
with
for
it being
Catherine. So it's 4 points for Catherine, 2 for Charles currently.
All right.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. So it sounds like, obviously...
It sounds like a Mario, but like
or a
maybe
Sonic.
a Yoshi?
Yeah, maybe a Yoshi.
Oh, yes, Sonic. That's true.
I think I'm going to go with Sonic.
I'll let you both lock in your answers before I...
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to go with Yoshi, even though I think it's probably Sonic, but just something different.
It is Sonic the Hedgehog. Charles gets 3 points.
Yes.
Yep, nice. Good work.
As for the win. The crowd goes wild.
I don't think I would have said Sonic without you saying it first.
No,
so
you wouldn't
I was
have.
like, I won't guess that. That's a bit mean.
It'd be rude. All right, next music.
Good quiz, Dan.
I reckon. That's Zelda.
What pretty music.
Can you tell me the name of the game?
It's a Zelda, and I'm going to say Ocarina of Time.
Catherine?
I mean, I kind of want to guess the same thing, but that's not fair because I haven't played the game.
That's it. You know, you got to choose what you got to choose.
Got to do what you got to do, Kevin.
Yeah. I'll say Breath of the Wild, just to probably lose.
It is the Song of Storms in Ocarina of Time that plays in the windmill.
Look at me. I'm a little chuffed with myself right now. All right.
So we got Charles on 8 and Catherine on 4.
I like them points. Next up.
It's fine. It's fine.
Hey yo, Jim, man, won't you kick some of that? You know how you do it, man. It's a trip. People don't even believe
I like this, whatever it is.
Oh, this is super hit.
You know the one I like. Say it for me.
I'm gonna say that's a GTA game.
I was like, that sounds like a GTA, maybe San Andreas.
Yeah, San Andreas sounds good, right? That's the one it belongs to.
Well, guess something else, Charles.
Oh, I guess we can't both guess it, can we?
Well, you can, but I did a gentlemanly thing.
Yeah, you did. But I totally think it's San Andreas, so I'm going to stick with it because I have no ethics.
So you're doing both San Andreas. You're both incorrect. The options are Forza, Burnout Revenge 3, or Need for Speed Underground 2.
Say the first one?
Forza.
Oh, it's a racing thing. You know, we
Burnout
don't play racing
3
games, Dan.
Or Need for Speed Underground 2.
I don't know. Need for Speed Underground 2.
Yeah, I'm also going to say Need for Speed.
It is. So it's Snoop Dogg, Feet the Doors, Riders on the Storm for Need for Speed Underground 2.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
I was pretty sure it was some Snoop. And he's in the mobile game as well.
Kind of something I want to listen to.
He name drops Need for Speed. I think it's a song made for the game. So
he would have gotten paid a lot of money for that.
Oh yeah, anyone who had that game used to have that song come up all the time while they were racing.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
right,
they need to get their money's value.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we've got two more to go.
All right. The one that we played.
Bastion?
No. This War of Mine.
Oh, hang on. I'm going to continue listening.
She's not allowed to pick my guess.
I'm still listening, Charles.
I bet you are.
I don't think it's This War of Mine.
Excellent. Don't pick it.
All right, I won't.
Good.
I won't.
What are you going to pick?
I actually don't know.
Pressure's on, Catherine.
I'm just going to go blank. I'm blank. I'm waiting for the quiz.
That's a great choice.
I think you're wrong.
It's really creative.
Charles is wrong, but so is Catherine for being blank.
Well, I said nothing.
Your choices are Castlevania. Sorry?
Penalize it if you do a guess. That's the...
No. You should penalize if you don't do a guess.
You should penalize for not taking chances.
Right.
Your choices are Castlevania, Diablo, or Devil May Cry.
Oh.
Devil May
Cry. No, that's lame. That's lame. I don't want to go the same as Catherine. I'm going to say Castlevania if Catherine's going Devil May Cry.
I said Devil May Cry.
You did.
It is Diablo.
Oh. Nailed it. Yeah. Catherine and Charles, high five.
Good. Yeah.
Yep. So the scores currently, let's add them up here. We got Charles on 10. Charles on 10. Catherine on... Catherine on 6.
Yeah, on 6. Right. Okay. So this is the final one, number 9.
No, 9 and 10. There's 10.
She wants both. She wants the time to catch up. All right, here we go. Number 9. I'm going to say Star Fox.
Star Fox.
Star Fox. Okay. It's a hard one.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of reminded of like the Stormwind music and WoW, but I know it's not that, but yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna go blank again.
It's neither of those things. Your choices are Star Wars Pod Racer, Star Wars Jedi Academy, or Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, it did have a Star Wars theme, but I'm like, it's too easy.
Jedi Academy.
Dan did love Jedi Academy, didn't he? I'm going to say Pod Racer for the hilarity's sake.
It was Rogue Squadron.
I really
We're
wanted
doing
it to
pretty
be
well.
Pod Racer.
2 out of 3, we are managing to avoid the correct one all the time.
I really thought Charles would have that one because I think we played Rogue Squadron.
I mean, he talks about Star Wars every fucking minute of every day. So.
Kind of like I knew it was Rogue Squadron, but I wanted it to be Pod Racer, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Last one.
All right, last one.
Chance to lose.
How are you doing playing at home?
But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake. And the science gets done and you make a neat gun for the people who are still alive.
Well, that's terrifying.
That was creepy as shit. Wow.
Like Professor Layton or something like that? Like one of those really cheerful Nintendo games?
I have nowhere to go with that. I don't know where that's come from, except the dark,
I'm going to say Professor Layton.
pits of Dan's heart. I got nothing.
Oh, Charles is leaving it blank.
I'm blanking. I'm calling it Catherine.
So you're both incorrect. Your options are Portal, Job Simulator, or BioShock Infinite.
Oh, I'm going to say Job Simulator. Here we go, Catherine. Can we do it again?
Cake. Yeah, let's see if we can make it a 4 for 4. I'm going to go Job Simulator. It's kind of got that weird, surreal, happy vibe.
That's what I said. You can't pick the one that I said.
Oh, no, I thought you said BioShock.
No, I said definitely not BioShock.
But you said Job Simulator?
I said Job Simulator.
What were the options again? BioShock, Job
Portal,
Simulator,
Job Simulator, and BioShock Infinite.
Yeah, all right. BioShock Infinite then.
It is Portal.
Fucking hell.
Catherine and Charles, high five.
Have you ever heard of the Cake is a Lie? That is from Portal, and that's the song that plays at the end of Portal, called Still Alive.
Amazing.
You know, I never finished Portal. I got bored.
Catherine, I'll one-up you. I've never played Portal.
No, I think mine is worse because I played it, I thought it was good, and then I just put it down halfway through and walked away. It's not a long game.
In the end, I feel we've wounded Dan, and that's what counts.
Yeah.
Look, Dan, that was an amazing quiz.
It was an excellent quiz.
And
I
most
loved it.
importantly, Charles won.
Charles did win.
But
Charles did win.
neither of us did great. So
no, there's no pride to be had in this victory.
That's it. But I really enjoyed myself, and that's what counts. And hopefully the viewers, listeners, if you will, enjoyed themselves too. Yeah, and hopefully did better.
Well, I did do a call out on Twitter to get some ideas, and there was going to be some Mario, and I was going to put To the Moon in there was another suggestion, but I wanted to steer clear of certain ones. But you guys got some of them, so I'm really proud of you.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
Some is important.
It would have been real embarrassing otherwise. We would have had to cut the whole segment.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, if you want to reach out to us and just let us know your favorite gaming soundtracks, because I've been down a deep rabbit hole of old SNES games and NES games just over the last couple of days finding cool music. You can tweet at me at NFGDan.
They can find me at CS McMullen, and I would also love some gaming soundtracks. I have actually a whole folder of gaming soundtracks in my Spotify. So I always
she can listen to it while riding, I guess.
Yeah,
nice.
That's what it's for.
I might have to check that out. You can find me at Charles Bryce.
Or you can find Charles at Star Wars Tabletop Gaming.
You certainly can. There's the plug.
Do you have a Twitter as well, Charles?
No, I don't tweet. It's not my thing. Not a tweeter.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So next time on Game Club, we're doing one for ourselves. This one's not up for a vote. We're going back into space.
This is for us.
Dictatorship.
Yep.
We're playing Pulsar.
The Lost Colony.
Oh, I'm so excited. Catherine, hopefully this works on your laptop.
Yeah.
Pulsar Lost Colony is another indie game where it's multiplayer, so we're going to have to play it together. We'll try and get some footage happening as well, where you're all got each got a role on the ship. It's almost like FTL but first person, and you're running around trying to make sure your ship doesn't blow up or implode in the vacuum of space, and that Catherine isn't putting you out an airlock.
Almost definitely will.
So looking forward to that. If you want to follow along with us, tweet at us at Game Clubcast. Let us know what you thought of this episode, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks' time.
See you then. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.